Brandin Cooks. I don't know what this man has to do to prove to you that he is the one, but he is the one. It doesn't matter what team he's on. It doesn't matter what situation he's in. We talked about it to death last year. I can't remember how many times I countlessly said that Brandin Cooks is a 1,000-yard machine. He'd done it going into last season. He'd put up 4 1,000-yard seasons out of the 5 that he played 14 or more games in. And he did so across 3 different teams. Doesn't matter the quarterback. Doesn't matter. He's putting up 1,000. Now he's done it in 5 out of the 6 times that he's played 14 or more games. He did it with Houston, just like I knew he would. 81 for 1,150 yards, 6 touchdowns with the Texans. Will Fuller leaves and all the targets leave with him. Cooks was wide receiver 17 in points per game. He is currently going as the wide receiver 45 on Underdog. If that is not a stone value, I don't know what is. And when we talk about 1,000 yards, right? Like, what does that mean? Is he just compiling stats? Is it meaningless? No, because not only does he have a high floor, putting up 12.5 points or more in 9 out of the 15 games that he played last season, he's also got a monster ceiling, 4 games with over 20 points and 2 over 30. Solid floor, monster ceiling. Brandin Cooks, the most disrespected player in the NFL year after year. It's time to start drafting him. I rest my case.
Now, can I ask how much Brandin Cooks you have?
About 2%.
But it's time to start drafting him, huh?
It is. I wasn't before, but I am now.
After that, I feel like that just invalidates everything that you just said.
I'm coming around to him.
You have 2% of this supposedly underappreciated wide receiver in the NFL. That's great. No. See, the thing with Brandin Cooks is, yeah, he's been solid throughout his career, but he's really only been that 12 points per game guy, that 13 points per game guy. Like, most of his production last year came from 3 games in fantasy, right? Like, yeah, solid floor, but the ceiling for most of the year wasn't there. You could spin it in the positive light that you did. He does have 39 points in his range of outcomes, 30 points, etc. But that was with Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson most likely isn't going to play for Houston in 2021. His quarterback is going to be Tyrod Taylor, okay? A bona fide scrub.
Wow.
Yeah. Bona fide scrub in Tyrod Taylor takes over now. The Houston Texans roster in general just got worse, and they're just going to be the worst team in the NFL. Probably would expect them to win 0 games. Like, I would bet on them going 0-17. But obviously, you can say that's a good thing for the pass catchers, more volume, or potential volume, I should say. But I just think that the Texans are going to just be a tank team. They're going to rotate at wide receiver with Nico Collins, Randall Cobb, who is making like $10 million for some reason, Kiki Kuti. They have Jordan Akins. They have the running backs, which will probably be featured in the offense with David Johnson, Phillip Lindsay, Mark Ingram. So just an offense that I want no parts of. I will say wide receiver 45, if he plays 17 games, he'll probably beat that. Like, I'm not saying that, but he's just a guy that'll most likely get you 12, 13 points per game, which will make your lineup some weeks. I will say that. It will make your lineup some weeks, but I just don't see the upside with what the Texans are going to be trotting out in 2021. Very, very bad situation for the skill position players on the Texans.
Yeah. Look, let me just offer a quick rebuttal. Now, the reason, and this is some galaxy brain shit, but I guess that's the theme of the podcast. The reason that I have little Brandin Cooks up to this point is because I have just an insane amount of foresight, Joey. So, like, I knew that players like Mike Williams and Michael Gallup that you were drafting in the 9th, 10th round a couple of months ago, I needed to get those shares while they were cheap, because now they've risen. These guys are 7th round picks now. Nobody's going to get hype about Brandin Cooks in the coming months. I could have waited until now, and now I'm shifting my 9th round attention to Brandin Cooks. That's why I said now is the time to draft him. It wasn't the time to draft him then, because his price isn't going to fluctuate. Nobody's going to get hype about him. So now is the time that these other players that I have substantial exposure to, now that their price is rising, now it's time to get back on the Brandin Cooks bandwagon. Part 2 of my rebuttal. You called Tyrod Taylor a bona fide scrub. First of all, that's absolutely disrespectful. Second of all, you're clearly discounting the drive and the rage that Tyrod Taylor is going to bring to the field after his team paid the doctor to puncture this man's lung and get Justin Herbert on the field. Imagine the rage in his heart as he's going to be coming on the field, hopefully with a team that won't do him so shady this year. And he's going to be motivated like you can't even believe. And it's not like he can't produce fantasy viable wide receivers. 2015 in the Bills, Sammy Watkins had over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns.
6 years ago.
When's he had a chance since then?
Yeah, because he's the guy that produces elite quarterbacks. You start Tyrod Taylor if you want your next quarterback to be elite, which is Davis Mills.
Okay.
And I would
even better. Get him in there. Brandin Cooks is going for 2,000 yards.
I don't think he's going for 2,000. That is not in his range of outcomes just as a player.